I'm Jason UFC, and today we have a story about Brendan Schaub agrees to Alex Pereira's takedown bet regarding Khamzat Chimaev fight. Quote, "If you want the smoke, come and get it, big boy." Unquote. Fighter turned podcaster Brendan Schaub has responded to UFC middleweight champion Alex Pereira bet offer. Putan, is that how you pronounce it? Is fresh off of his why do they keep saying knockout win? His TKO win. I believe it was a TKO. I don't believe it was a knockout. I believe it was a TKO win over Israel Adesanya. The victory saw the Brazilian, or the victory saw Alex Pereira become the undisputed middleweight UFC champion just 4 fights into his UFC stint and earned his third victory over the last style bender. I bet 2 of those came in the kickboxing ring. Despite competing earlier this month, the newly crowned champion is already discussing a return to the octagon. During a recent appearance on the MMA Hour, Alex Pereira revealed he was in discussions. Wow, he was in discussion. That's insane. That's unbelievable. He was in discussions to fight Khamzat Chimaev in January, 2 months after defeating Israel Adesanya in the 5th round. Wow. The fight would... See, I don't know about this one. The fight would reportedly taken place at light heavyweight, 205 pounds division, as the Brazilian couldn't make middleweight on short notice. Along with that bet, Alex Pereira proposed a bet with Brendan Schaub, the former UFC heavyweight, previously predicted Boris Chimaev. Khamzat Chimaev could take Alex Pereira, the UFC middleweight champion, down in 30 seconds, as well as beat him. Pereira was willing to put $100,000 on the line with Schaub for that not happening. What's going on with UFC fighters betting so much? Now Brendan Schaub has responded to the bet offer, and he seemed down. Unbelievable. During a recent episode of The Fighter and the Kid, Brendan Schaub agreed to the proposition and questioned why the bout would take place at why the bout would take place at light heavyweight if Pereira wasn't hesitant to lose his title. Well, he kind of explained why he didn't want to. He couldn't. Alex Pereira wasn't going to be able to make middleweight weight in January after fighting Israel Adesanya. He's a big boy, so that's why the fight was going to take place at light heavyweight. Everyone knows that. This is a long article. Okay, let me see if I can skip some of this, right? Okay. I agree, I'm down for a good cause, stated Schaub on the Fighter and the Kid podcast. You don't need a manager. Deal with me directly. Go ahead, the 30-second bet. I'm going to do it because that's stupid. Obviously, I do a show and I try to exaggerate. I will bet $50,000 that Khamzat takes him down in the first round. All day, I'll bet $50,000 that Khamzat beats him. Schaub continued, I don't get how he's offended. Okay, let me say this again. Okay. Schaub continued, I don't get how, because I don't like when I say he. I gotta explain who's he. I don't like how Alex Pereira, this is Brendan Schaub saying this, I don't like how Alex Pereira is offended by me saying that Khamzat, stylistically, that is a tough matchup for him. I don't think that's what you say. You say he's going to beat him. Khamzat's skill set, what he does great, is a complete nightmare for Alex Pereira. This is nothing that anybody else either isn't thinking or hasn't said yet. But if you want the smoke, come and get it for $50,000 that Khamzat beats Alex Pereira. The one caveat here, the 205 thing is weird because neither of them fight exactly, right? Khamzat is a welterweight, so I don't know why anyone would challenge him at 2 divisions above, but we do know why Alex Pereira said that. One's at welterweight. Let's just say Khamzat's at welterweight, 175 pounds, and Alex Pereira is the undisputed middleweight champion at 185 pounds. Put your belt on the line at 85. So if you're confident that you can do all of this to Khamzat, which I don't think he can even at 205, why wouldn't you do it at 85? You're both middleweighters. I'm not even tempted. I'm not even tempted. I'm in. Wow. Okay. So, you know, first thing I want to say is I don't. I know the UFC loves promotion. I know the UFC loves when fighters, I wouldn't say make fights themselves, but when they go back and forth on social media and it's picked up by all the other sites. The one thing I would say, just to start, the first thing that I don't like that they should be doing, and it's just not a good idea, especially what's happening right now in the UFC. The UFC, I would say, and I know those who know wouldn't say it's a big deal, but the UFC did recently, and they put it out a few weeks ago, that no UFC fighter is allowed to bet on any UFC fights. They just can't bet. So I don't love this conversation of Khamzat and Schaub betting, saying, "Hey, I'm gonna bet $50,000 that I win, and I'm gonna bet $50,000 that, he wins." Alex Pereira's manager or translator did say that the money would go to charity. So I don't know what that's about. But I would say, I'm pretty sure sooner than later the UFC is gonna go to Pereira and say, you have to stop with this whole betting thing. You have to get that out of the headlines. We do not want anything to do with our fighters betting, right? So that part of the story we have to just get past. I think all UFC fighters have to stop talking about betting. It's not a good look. They are going through something. I know it's only one person. I know allegedly, I gotta have to say allegedly, it's something to do with a trainer, a coach. Should I say his name? I guess obviously I could say his name. I would say allegedly James Krause, is going through a betting scandal. But the UFC, because of that reason, they have implemented no betting for any UFC fighter. So the first thing Alex Pereira has to stop talking about betting $100,000 or $50,000 that he won't be taken down, or $50,000 that he won't be beaten. Now, the second part of this story, which is probably the most important part of what everybody is starting to forget, is that we did a story earlier this week on why Alex Pereira wanted to fight at 205 pounds. Like I said, Alex Pereira just defeated Israel Adesanya in the 5th round at in the middleweight division, obviously. But Alex Pereira, from what I understand, he's a big boy, right? Alex Pereira is a big boy. You can even see from this photo, he looks way bigger than Israel Adesanya. I believe, I don't know this for sure, but I would say that when Alex Pereira fights in the middleweight division, that obviously he makes weight, 185. But the next day, when he comes into fight night, I believe he's at like 200 pounds. I've heard something that he may be even at like 220. That seems completely outrageous. But I'm pretty sure he walks around like 220. So he's a very big boy. With him cutting weight earlier last month in November to make the middleweight, obviously I don't think he would have been able to cut weight again and make middleweight in January. So that's why Alex Pereira offered to fight Khamzat Chimaev at 205 pounds, right? Some people would say, well, you're the middleweight champion. Why are you challenging a welterweight, right? And it really isn't a great look, because it does look kind of crazy that, the middleweight champion is challenge a fighter under him, 15 pounds less than him, to go all the way up to 205 pounds. That's completely outrageous, right? But the reason why he's doing it is because, like I said, Alex Pereira is a big boy. He was not going to be able to make, if Chimaev wanted to fight in Brazil in January, UFC 283, I believe that's the card. UFC 280, is it 283? I think it's UFC 283. Alex Pereira is saying, listen, I'll fight you. Like, I'll fight you at heavyweight. I'll fight you at light heavyweight. But obviously I cannot make, and I'm not trying to cut back down to 200, to the middleweight division and put my title on the line 2 months after defeating Israel Adesanya. So that's basically the main reason why Alex Pereira, the middleweight champion, challenged Chimaev at 205 pounds, just because he was saying he can't make weight. Some people are going to say, oh, he's scared to lose his belt, all this crazy stuff, yada, yada, yada. He is basically saying, I cannot make 205, I cannot make middleweight 185 pounds and put my belt on the line 2 months after defeating Israel Adesanya and cutting all of that weight. So that's basically why Alex Pereira offered to fight Chimaev. If Chimaev wanted this fight in January, that, Chimaev's last fight was in like September of last year. So he had decade of last year, of this year, I mean, so he's been out for a while. But Alex Pereira, this was his first time getting into the fifth round in his MMA career. It was a tough weight cut. I believe he was the last fighter to make weight. I think it was like 5 minutes before the deadline. So it took him some time to make that middleweight limit. Obviously, he's not looking to go back to middleweight in January. Now, the question is, what's going on here? Where's Israel Adesanya? Why is he so quiet? All of this talk is, it seems like Chimaev and Pereira are going to fight next, right? Israel Adesanya has been pretty quiet. Like I said, the UFC does love when fighters not makes their own fights, but when they promote, when they have real beef, right? And when social media picks this up, it's talked about and it's trending, and everybody's like, what, we really, Alex Pereira has defeated Israel Adesanya 3 times already, twice in MMA, twice in kickboxing, and once in MMA, right? So we could see Alex Pereira going to the UFC like, listen, I know Israel Adesanya wants a rematch, yada, yada, yada. He even deserves a rematch, but you know what? Maybe, me and Chimaev have real smoke right now. Maybe we should settle that first, and then Israel Adesanya may fight the winner, right? Because Alex Pereira knocked out Israel Adesanya in their second fight. He knocked him out cold in kickboxing. And then in their third fight, their first MMA fight, Alex Pereira stopped Israel Adesanya via TKO in the 5th round, right? So there is some idea that Alex Pereira could easily go to the UFC and say, listen, I could fight, Israel Adesanya again in 2023, but that does not mean that Israel Adesanya will get an automatic rematch and he's next in line. The way it seems like what's going on here, with all of this back and forth between Chimaev and Alex Pereira, I would not be surprised if Alex Pereira and Chimaev fight next for the middleweight championship. Alex Pereira, like I said, he's willing to fight Chimaev. He was just saying that, listen, if I'm going to have to fight Chimaev, when I say if Alex Pereira is going to have to fight Chimaev in January, 2 months after cutting a huge weight cut, he's saying, hey, let's fight at 205 pounds. I'm not going down to middleweight. Nothing about not being afraid to lose my belt. It's just I can't make that weight class. Now, Chimaev missed weight in his last welterweight fight versus Nate Diaz. He was scheduled to fight Nate Diaz at, I believe, UFC 279. Don't quote me on that. But he was scheduled to fight Nate Diaz at welterweight. He came in like 177 pounds. It was kind of crazy, but it does seem like the UFC is still trying to push Chimaev to fight Colby Covington next at welterweight. We haven't heard almost anything. This has been like the quietest year for UFC fighters, right? Like in so many ways. That's why I'm looking forward to 2023. But there's been a lot of talk that Chimaev is going to fight Colby Covington next. Chimaev really hasn't been talking crazy about Colby Covington. Colby Covington really hasn't. We haven't heard. I don't know. I've been paying attention, but we haven't really heard anything from Colby Covington. I have no idea who he's going to fight next or when he's going to fight next. So I don't know if Chimaev is going to still be in the welterweight division in 2023. We'll have to see about that. But this is, it's kind of a crazy story. I would just say the one thing these Pereira has to do is just stop talking about taking bets, and if I lose, it's $100,000. If I win, it's $100,000. It's just not a good look for the UFC right now, because of the betting scandal that they're going through. But let me know your opinion of this story. It's kind of fun. I'm a little bit surprised that Brendan Schaub has got into this. I don't know why he's the one who's saying, because remember, this wasn't Brendan Schaub. Brendan Schaub didn't say, hey, I'll bet anyone $50,000. It was Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira's team was the first one to come up with the $50,000, $100,000 bet. Schaub was just saying that, hey, I think, when I say Brendan Schaub was just saying that he thinks Chimaev could take Alex Pereira down within 30 seconds and defeat him. And Pereira, I guess he didn't like that at all. But, it is kind of true. Brendan Schaub, a lot of people have said that. A lot of people think Chimaev will beat Alex Pereira. I think Brendan Schaub was it Brendan Schaub that said that Alex Pereira couldn't defeat any top 5 middleweight? I don't know what's going on with Brendan Schaub and Alex Pereira. These two seem to have some smoke. I don't know what's going on there, but let me know your opinion of this story. Do you think Chimaev and Alex Pereira should fight next? Maybe not in UFC Brazil and UFC 283, but should that be the next fight for the middleweight championship, or should Alex Pereira fight Israel Adesanya next for the middleweight championship? And also with that, do you think Chimaev should try to continue to stay in the welterweight division and fight Kobe Covington next, or should he just basically go up and fight Alex Pereira next for the middleweight championship? I would prefer Pereira and Chimaev fighting next for the middleweight championship. But I am Jason, UFC. Today we had a story about Brendan Schaub agrees to the UFC undisputed middleweight champion Alex Pereira takedown bet regarding Khamzat Chimaev fight. If I'm gonna just say that, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the $1 donation button, and please tune in to the next video on this channel. Thanks a million for watching.